Good morning and welcome to this panel discussion on regional divergence or GCC convergence, the integration race. From digital banking frameworks to cryptocurrency regulations and instant payment rails, the Gulf region is undergoing rapid financial transformation. As national ecosystems evolve at different paces, businesses navigating multiple markets face both opportunities and friction. So what we're going to discuss today, how aligned are GCC countries in their fintech visions and regulatory approaches? What frameworks and governance models could support cross-border interoperability and risk management, and how might greater harmonization enhance the region's influence in setting global financial standards? I'm Swarup Gupta. I'm the lead analyst for financial services for Economist Intelligence Unit, which is the business intelligence arm of the Economist Group. And I have the pleasure of calling onto stage Abdul Nasser Al Rayaz, Chief Executive BD. Please come on stage. Abdul Nasser Saab, if I could start with you, what are the unique opportunities and advantages that fintech players in the GCC region face, especially when it comes to regulations and governance frameworks, and what are the major challenges, especially when it comes to catering to customers, and if you could focus on the Bahrain experience.
Thank you very much, first of all, for the opportunity. I believe we are very much blessed here in the GCC that we have a lot of infrastructure that supports the fintech in all aspects. As a proof case of that, our existence as BD is where comes a telco company such as Zain considers to start investing in the fintech side of the things. This is what is happening today because you have the infrastructure and you have a well-educated population in different ranges and in different ages who are willing to participate and to use this technology and to adopt it. Actually, people are looking forward. So whenever there's a new technology coming into within the region, not specifically in Bahrain, you will see the early adaptation is quite remarkable. And we have seen that in BD since we have started. The numbers were really remarkable. The experience is going, and we're building on top of that.
Right. I mean, very interesting. Mo, if I could turn to you now and stay with the same theme, what's your view of the GCC when it comes to regulatory alignment? Is it very closely regulatory aligned? Is there scope for more regulatory alignment? Can more be done? What's the scope for innovation? What's the status of sandboxes in the region? How does that vary depending on which country one sets up operations in? Or is there complete harmony? And that's not something that we should be discussing at all today.
Thanks for that, Swarup, and thank you for having me. So there's a lot there to unpack, if I'm being honest. I think you asked in terms of GCC regulatory alignment. I think it's an easy answer. I mean, there's always more that can be done. It's pretty amazing to watch what different GCC regulators are doing, and I can't say it better or more profoundly than CZ just mentioned in terms of Bahrain itself. And some of the innovation they're driving, that openness to innovation, having its own dedicated fintech and innovation office within the Central Bank of Bahrain. So there's no doubt that a lot is being done, and a lot of that encourages players like Remitly and others in the fintech space to actually invest in this country and across the GCC. But in terms of alignment across the GCC countries, I think there's definitely room for improvement. I don't think the burden or responsibility lies on any one particular regulator within the GCC. Obviously, it is a matter of the regulators kind of coming together. And there's more I can touch on in terms of instant payment rails and connectivity, etc. We can get to later in the discussion. But all to say, I think for now, I would say there's really healthy co-opetition. The different regulators each demonstrating their strengths in terms of how can we be open to innovation, how can we encourage players both domestically and globally coming in and investing more within the region and within the individual countries within that region. So certainly scope for more integration throughout. And just as a quick example, then I'll hand over to my colleagues, licensing.
Yes.
Licensing is a difficult process. Anyone who's gone through that definitely can affirm that. I haven't heard anyone contradict that. Doing so for one regulator and then passporting that across different countries within the GCC would make such a difference to companies, whether it's Remitly or others, in terms of expanding more quickly in the GCC. Otherwise, it's very much an application process for one and then going on to the next. And any one of these is really a team effort. So trying to do all six, as in the 6 countries of the GCC at once, it's too kind of gargantuan of a burden to do, and oftentimes companies really need to be very selective as a result of where they're investing.
Right, interesting. We'll come back to a lot of this later on. Dan, now turning to you, moving to a slightly different but aligned theme, just to take a slightly broader picture view of how things are in the region. What is your view of the GCC's current fintech landscape? Because you have a unique perspective as both a player but also providing critical services. So, and what is the role of critical elements like cloud services when it comes to providing scalability and growth across the region? So, if you could expand on that a bit, and go on.
Sure. Thanks for having me here. My name is Dan Hu. I'm the Vice President of Tencent Cloud, taking care of the region. 16 years in the region. So Middle East is my second hometown. The Middle East market is very diversifying market, and each country moving at its own pace. But I can see some common trend. So in each and every country, we can see, like, for example, Bahrain or UAE or a Saudi, along with other countries, we are issuing different digital bank, or we can call it countless banks, a license, and also with the rising of crypto exchange in each and every countries. But the question is that how the digital or fintech industry or the digital bank can compete with the traditional bank, and how to distinguish itself from the existing banking service. The trend is that we can see all the digital bank or crypto exchange, they are trying to offer distinguished service. For example, peer-to-peer transfer, virtualized credit line, virtualized credit card, microloan, so on and so forth. They try to bring more digital services to cover their customer demand. However, it is very difficult. Now I can say, you just talk about the scalability, interoperability, and also customer value. I can say by now it is kind of like impossible triangle. You can't take all three. You may take one or two. Because of what? Because the traditional way is that you try to offer more digital services on your own app or on your own channel. Then you need to spend a lot of time, energy, and also when you enter into the new vertical, you actually start to compete with existing players in this vertical. For example, a fintech company, if they want to launch their e-commerce business, maybe they have to compete with the existing e-commerce vendor or grocery service or crypto stuff. Well, I would like to introduce or talk about our experience in China. That is about our WeChat. WeChat is one of the most successful super app in the world, with monthly active user of 1.4 billion people. And on top of WeChat, we are offering more than 7.4 million digital services. But most of the digital services, and WeChat is only a 400 megabyte app. How we make it is through our ecosystem. We call it a mini app marketplace. It allows third party, no matter it's like food delivery or city service, municipality service, insurance service, so on and so forth. They can onboard their service on top of WeChat platform in a very easy way. WeChat user, they can access to those services without sign up, without doing anything, single sign up with your WeChat single ID, hassle free, and pay by WeChat Pay. So 2 years ago, we launched Tencent Cloud. We launched this Tencent Cloud Super App framework, and we bring this to the market. In the region, I think now we have the Orange, the Maxi Super App. Now they are covering more than 40 million people, leveraging with the Super App framework. And also we work with EN UAE. Smiles is starting from EN loyalty program, now is on the way to become a supermall solution. So I wish this app on app or SureFab framework might be providing a different alternative to those fintech companies and also to those crypto exchange.
Interesting, very interesting. Coming back to the BD experience, you definitely have also access to the wider Zain experience across the entire GCC region. And people come here to hear about real life examples and business case studies, success stories, and any failures or anything that you've learned in the process. What ideas have particularly caught your attention, and which success stories would you like to highlight to the audience today?
Actually, this is what we try to do here in Zain. We try to adopt our fintech and all of the opcos that we operate in. So currently we have Tamam in Saudi Arabia, and we have BD in Sudan, and we have Zain Cash in Jordan, as well as Iraq. We are very much close to each other. We communicate on a regular basis. We share ideas, and we come up with different ways on how they are doing the businesses over there. So, for instance, we just launched BD. Actually, Zain Group just launched BD in Sudan, and it's a peer-to-peer wallet. In Bahrain, peer-to-peer wallet is not something that is even needed, because the infrastructure in Bahrain, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, because of the stability, because of the bases, and because of the central bank and all of these things that have been built over the years, peer-to-peer is not something that is even wanted or looked at. We need to have it within the EFTS to get your money within the nationwide, not just within a wallet setup. But at the end of the day, we always share experiences, and we share ideas, and we share things even before proceeding. Before the panel, we just came from Jordan, me and the team, and we visited Jordan to see how they have implemented their prepaid card and their remittance, because these are the next steps that's coming within BD.
Interesting. That's all really a lot to unpack. Well, if I just come back to you and just continue with what we were discussing, again, if you could talk about some of the real accounts of fintech players in the region. Remitly has a very wide expanse. It operates across multiple regions, multiple markets. I'm sure that you have many such stories to share. And also, as an addenda, if I could ask you to comment on what we can learn in this region from the EU experience and regulatory experience. You've already referred to passporting, so that's an interesting lead-in. So if you'd care to comment on all of that.
For sure, I appreciate it, Saurabh. Yeah, I'll dive into that kind of, lessons learned from Remitly as a global organization. Remitly has been around for over a dozen years now. We operate across US, Canada, Latin America, across Europe, into Far East Asia, and we have licenses across all of these jurisdictions. I think the very obvious example is in Europe, right? So in Europe, Remitly is regulated, and we had our license approved for the type of business we do, which is cross-border payments, by the Central Bank of Ireland. That sounds random, right? Okay, why Ireland? Why not any of the other states within the EU? And the reality is, with that license, we can passport across 27 markets in the European Union. That's pretty amazing, and that allows us to do things that we may not have otherwise done. Let's take a market, like a smaller market in Europe, whether it's Greece or Sweden. Those are markets that, had we had to apply for separate licenses, we may still not have been there as of today. But because we're able to passport that license, we operate across all 27 markets, and all 27 are live. All 27 we have customers, and all 27 we're growing. And that's quite amazing for us to unlock a whole region with one license, with one regulatory relationship, etc. You look at, to come back to the title of this session, you look at how GCC could learn from that. I think a similar kind of passporting experience would really attract a lot of investment into the region. Not that investment isn't coming anyhow. It certainly is. And
attract more.
Exactly. More and faster, right? Because there's a lot of companies that have the GCC on their roadmap, but they might say like, okay, we're establishing first in Bahrain, and 2 years later in UAE, and 3 years later in Oman, etc. Imagine just bringing all of that investment forward. And to your point, you're right, it's coming either way, but we can really kind of consolidate and make life easier for a lot of companies that would allow them to really start to invest across all 6 markets in the GCC at one time and quite quickly and effectively. I think that's an ideal state to get to one day. I don't think it's a matter so much as that can't be done. It's just kind of gathering the political will and agreeing on things about governance, how is data managed across this region. Those are the kind of the nuances that still need to be hashed out, but conceptually and theoretically, that should be kind of the end objective in my view.
Yeah, and the EU hasn't gotten all of its act right. I mean, it's been trying to create this capital markets union for years, and it's been discussing it now, but it's got some of it right, I
Correct.
guess. If there's one experience that you've got right that might be worth replicating across other countries, across regions, right?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, you talked about this impossible triangle: interoperability, scalability, providing customer value, maybe throw in a bit of security. When you look at scalability challenges, definitely what kind of challenge is that? How difficult a challenge is that when it comes to expanding fintech, whether it's a digital bank or a payments processor or a cross-border payments rail across any region, And again, how do you manage this impossible triangle in that sense? And again, to harp on with the same point, where does a player like Tencent come in? I mean, because it's sort of competing, it's also collaborating, it's also providing a foundation and bedrock for other players to operate in. So,
thanks for this question. So it's a hard call. Definitely, we are not competing. We are bringing up our latest SuperApp framework. So actually, we spend a huge amount of human resource and money to build up this framework, SuperApp framework, and it is already deployed for some flagship customers in the region. So here is our philosophy. Instead of so if you want to offer more digital services, right? We can understand this is kind of like common demand for many fintech companies, especially newcomers. We want to be distinguished in the market, but how? I think this SuperApp framework will offer this alternative, right? Instead of building everything, but you build a marketplace with a very easy way. You welcome other people to onboard. So this is a totally different philosophy. I think this is a very differential approach for those fintech company and cryptos if they want to be different. I think next week, we will be in JETX. So if everything is okay, you will see some good news for our reference case with cryptos, also with this philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. If I could come back, Mansour, to the BD experience, and when we were having discussions about this panel, you refer to the cooperative initiatives, the collaborative initiatives that the company has taken on. How is the company entering into collaborative partnerships, particularly in Bahrain? Again, what you've learned from other parts of the region, the other stories, and how do you think all of this is, ending up benefiting the end customer? And if you could go on at length about this, because it's very important to highlight how these experiences are ultimately intended, not just for collaboration for the sake of it, but to benefit the end customer. That's the main purpose of these things.
Well, see, the thing is, MBD, whenever we're looking into a new service or a new technology to adopt or a service to offer to the customer, we don't look for suppliers or service providers. We look for partners. So whenever we sit with a company and we believe that they have the right technology and the right approach, we immediately start looking into how we can enter into a partnership rather than a supplier and a service provider arrangement. If we can strike such arrangements with all service providers that provide us with the needed services to offer our fintech services, then they will be positioned in the best way. As a matter of fact, today we have signed 2 partnerships with NEC in Bahrain to offer our remittance services, and it's based on partnership rather than a service provider. And we did the same thing with Sinad to handle our card processing services through a partnership model. Building a partner with your service provider, it just basically uplifts the whole game, and to ensure that it always gives you the best in the market to adopt the latest technology to be available there. So whenever we in BD look into anything, we just look into the partnership model rather than the service provider model.
Right. Very interesting. I'd just like to return to you, Dan, for a bit, which is about the fact that you talked about a mini app on top of the super app. And how that benefits a region, where this is still growing, it's not saturated, because I find that bit of technology particularly fascinating. Would just dwell on that a bit, because that's, as far as I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, the first kind of look or presence that it has as a company in itself, providing those services to Tencent in the region.
Yes, so thanks for offering me this opportunity to elaborate how this mini app and super app stuff. So the common way, if we are like there is the app, Fintech app, if you want to offer more services, the common way or the mainstream is that you put on a logo. And for example, let's say this is a banking, e-banking app. You want to offer digital service for a grocery or food delivery, you put some, for example, Taliban logo on top of that. But if you click, it will be redirecting you to Taliban website or other vendors' website. So, and also you need to do a lot of integration. So generally, you are doing something good for your partners or your customers. But mini app or super app framework is like this. This is a totally different layer. So on top of, let's take WeChat for example. So there is only one single sign-on with WeChat ID. The mini app are responsible and developed by the third parties, right? But they host on WeChat platform.
So you're providing an ecosystem where others can come in and build.
We offer this marketplace, for example, to on-shelf, to evaluate, to monitor security, everything. This we package this as our framework, and actually it's very easy. It's only an SDK. For example, if you have your digital bank, you just need to insert this SDK, plug and play. Well, you will have your marketplace to onboard third parties, and then you can enjoy or share the benefit with your partners. And the mini program is developed by JavaScript, so very easy language. In addition to that, everybody now is talking about AI influence. We also have AI automatically generation mini app tool. We call it Code Buddy. So that means if you talk to them with your own language, it can help you to generate mini app within minutes.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Mo, I know that we've talked about this a little before in preparation for the panel, but if you look at some of the regions across the world that have a common tech stack, so for example, China has its CBDC, Brazil has its CBDC coming up called Drex, which the wholesale version is likely to be released sometime mid next year. Then there's PIX, which is its instant payment system. India has its UPI, and then there are multiple, examples across Southeast Asia. I know that, for example, Bahrain has Onyx and and so on and so forth. But what about a common tech stack for all the GCC countries? How would that change the game if you had one single underlying technology solution on which others could build their solutions, whenever you wanted? How would that affect? What kind of sandbox rules would evolve? Or, is that, again, not needed? I mean, that's something that we shouldn't be discussing. There's already some very vibrant technology scene here, but, at least my view is, and I could be wrong, and you'll correct me, is that it would significantly reduce costs and raise interoperability.
Yep.
What are your views on that?
I mean, I'll start at the end. I agree with your view that it would reduce costs and increase interoperability and just make payments across the region a lot more efficient and quick. As Mr. Abdul Nasser mentioned, like within the countries of the GCC, so like the inter-country, payments are actually quite effective, really strong instant payment rails within Bahrain, within Saudi with Sari, within UAE with Ani. each of which are relatively nascent but growing and have proven to be quite effective. I think to your broader question on the potential for something across the GCC, I think the best example that you gave of the examples you mentioned is UPI. Like, I've been blown away by UPI, really. I genuinely have, and anyone here from India will certainly
Which is now usable in Dubai and various other regions.
Absolutely, and I think it's such a good use case. For those who are less familiar, UPI, it's not an app. It's
just an API.
It's an instant. It's an open protocol.
It's an open protocol
that lets any bank, any fintech, any wallet plug into it and take part in those instant payment rails. And I think just on UPI for another second, it was launched less than 10 years ago, and today it processes more than 10 billion with a B transactions per month. So its scale is phenomenal, and what that's unlocked for the Indian economy is actually pretty remarkable. True. Which used to be quite heavily cash-based, and then has now, like in less than a decade, has completely digitized in the payment space. So coming back to the GCC, I again think it's not a question of tech. If we were to have a similarly open protocol that these different national level
could then build on,
exactly, could plug into, could build on, and make a payment from Riyadh to Manama as easy as a payment from Mumbai to Delhi is today. What an unlock for the region, for each of the individual economies and for the region as a whole. Once again, I hate to repeat myself, but it's equally true as the point that was made earlier on licensing and passporting, etc. I don't think it's a matter of tech being the blocker. I think the tech is there. India's proved it with UPI. You mentioned PIX. You've mentioned another set of these. So the tech is there. It's really about is the vision there in terms of the need for interoperability and hashing out some of those details I mentioned earlier. Data is a very big issue. How is data shared? Who owns or controls this interoperable system? Who settles the transactions? So these. I'm not saying it's an overnight fix and something that could be done very easily. There's a lot to be thought through. But if the kind of political will is there, it would be an amazing unlock, something that would be genuinely very exciting that the region could really lead on.
Yeah. Actually, I'd like to ask you, Abdul Nasser Saab, what are your views on this? I mean, what more can be done in terms of regional integration? I know that Bahrain is a leader. It was the original banking hub of the GCC. There are other competitors now which are trying their best, but I'm sure that it retains its preeminence. Is there something more that can be done across the GCC?
Always. I think opportunities never end. It depends on the customer needs. I'd always build whatever is needed based on the customer requirements. So it's not about just the fancy technology and just doing the adaptations. You just need to look into those needs and what are the pain points and what are the things that are still being done on a manual basis. I believe this is where the opportunity lies today. This is what we are looking at all times, that we want to cover all of the financial needs, whether it's offered by banks or financial institutions or even other than the financial institutions, to make them fully digitalized at the hands of the customer so that he can take those decisions. But most importantly, we need to make sure that we include the financial inclusion when we're looking into creation of such products, so that it's just not for certain segments within the market, it should be available for everyone within the market. And this is what I think we should be working towards.
I think I'd just like to, stretch that point a bit, because again, in preparation, we discussed about the challenge of catering to a wide spectrum of customers. You have someone looking at very small value transactions, you have the real high value customers. But when you build a platform like yours, you can't really differentiate, at least in terms of, making that work. I mean, how have you worked?
I believe this takes me back to Zain. Now, Zain is NDA is basically goes into retail and mass. So that's why you see the telcos, they look into very much heavily how to invest into their retail and to their branches network to reach all of the country or to wider and wider ranges. So if you bring that mindset and you start embedding in it the fintech, and then you can start seeing it will never end, because it's not only just the super app that we're looking at, we're looking into including all of the services in one place. But most importantly, we always look into the journey. Now, the journey is, I think it is the core differentiator between this app and the other app and the other app. So you need to always go back to your customers, validate with them, ensure the satisfaction, and then you can add on to the same app itself.
Right. If you could just add to this more in terms of catering to customers and, your experience now, currently, of course, is mostly with cross-border transactions and remittances.
Yeah.
Do you see any new technologies changing that in a major way? You've had a massive year for stable coins.
Right.
You think that's an opportunity or a threat, or that particular situation is still evolving, whether that will aid cross-border players in this region or other regions, or that's still an evolving story. We don't know where those regulations are going. What's your view on that particular situation?
I want to piggyback again on something Mr. Abdel Nasser mentioned, which is the necessity of customer centricity when we're having these discussions.
Yep.
I think that often goes kind of overlooked, which is wrong, right? Like I think it's so easy to say, let's roll out CBDCs as coming like that. That's what I keep hearing at all of these conferences. So I might as well do it. Otherwise, I'll have FOMO and I'll miss the boat. That's not how business can run, right? Like is there a genuine use case for it? And I'm not saying that to discredit the CBDCs. I genuinely believe in that as well as a potential future unlock for remittances. We've seen real use cases in countries like Venezuela and Nigeria, where getting funds in is difficult, hyperinflation with the currency, etc. So there's certainly use cases, but it has to be customer driven, and those use cases have to be legitimate and not just tech for the sake of tech. So that's the broad response. To answer your question more specifically on what I'm excited about from a financial innovation perspective, specifically in cross-border payments and remittances, you did hit CBDCs. Another one is, in the micro lending space. When it comes to remittances, sometimes people have an urgent requirement to send money home, don't necessarily have the funds on hand. So one of the, you all may have heard, it's called send now, pay later. It's basically the buy now, pay later of remittances, where you're able to take let's say a 25 BD loan, short term, shouldn't even call it a loan really. It's just the ability to send that amount and then fund that account, fund your wallet shortly after or whenever you receive your salary. So that's something. When I look at the kind of on the basis of financial inclusion being a key theme of
it's almost like BNPL in its
it's exactly that. It's the theme comes from BNPL. It's send now, pay later, and I feel with the kind of it's important to come back to a mission of a company, and if it's really to unlock and provide financial inclusions to those who are typically underserved, that's a space that I find very interested in.
Dan, you talked a bit about AI, and you talked a bit about agentic AI. Drex, for example, Mose just talked about how you can send remittances and then try and fund it very quickly, just like BNPL. The Drex platform that's coming on in Brazil reportedly, once it has its stablecoin element running, that's going to have the ability to actually issue loans against receivables that are on chain. You haven't received them, but in advance, you can actually gain loans from that. How do you think, generative AI is going to change this entire space? You talked about it, agentic AI, it's going to reduce costs, it's going to make it more customizable. What are your views on that? I mean, this is still evolving, right? And you talked about one application, but I'm sure there's a lot more to unpack.
So we did have a lot of practice, especially for ourselves. For example, I just introduced the AI mini app automatic generated tool called CodeBuddy. It's by AI, and also we have the AI solution for eKYC, right? And also we have other very unique stuff like we just discussed. For example, our Palm Pay.
I was about to come to that. You could just expand a little bit. We're completely out of time, but the last few seconds, if you don't mind.
Just very brief. We launched this Palm Pay last year in Singapore Fintech event with Visa. Actually, we already rolled out in China. So we are the largest Palm Pay solution company in the world. So it used in China, we used to leapfrog from credit card directly to the QR payment.
Yes.
By QR. And then later we tried the facial recognition, but because of deepfake, because of engineering issue, for example, reflection of the light, and also deepfake, this kind of stuff, we think the palm print might be a good solution. So firstly, it's very secure. dual verification by palm print and also the weighing on your palm, and it's device free. You don't need to bring your device anymore, right? And
so device independent as well. That goes as well.
Very. We have, and also we already roll out our service in China for like 2 years. So I hope this can be also rapidly deployed in Bahrain and also in the region. We can also have, the practice like China, leapfrog, right? We don't have to go to the digital payment and QR code anymore. Let's try this new stuff.
Right. I'm afraid we are completely out of time today. Thank you so much for a wonderful and engaging discussion. And thank you for coming. And I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. I'm sure they have. Big round of applause, please. Thank you.